Repeatedly throughout our history, the human race has proved its capability to create the truly incredible, continually pushing the boundaries of science and engineering for the betterment of our species. But the more we push, the greater the risk. Whilst failure is thankfully uncommon and infrequent, a singular event can change the course of history and redefine a single word forever. Challenger, Zeebrugge, Columbine, Titanic, Chernobyl. The story begins in 1970, when construction began on the V.I. Lenin Nuclear Power Station, now more commonly known as the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant. Ambitious Soviet plans intended to make the nuclear power plant the largest of its kind ever in existence, intending to create a 12-reactor complex. 7 years after construction began in 1977, the first of 4 RBMK 1000 reactors was completed, followed 1 year later by reactor number 2 in 1978, reactor number 3 in 1981, and finally reactor number 4 in 1983. Construction of reactors number 5 and 6 was well underway when in the early hours of April 26, 1986, reactor number 4 catastrophically failed. Reactor 5 was approximately 70% completed at the time of the incident, and this is the state within which it remains, like many buildings in the region, left abandoned during the hasty evacuation of the zone, never to be returned to and slowly be reclaimed by Mother Nature. On April 25, 1986, prior to a routine shutdown, the reactor crew at Chernobyl 4 began preparing for a late-night safety test. The test simulated a station-wide power failure to determine how long the turbines would spin and continue to supply power to the main coolant circulating pumps following a loss of the main electrical power supply. The test was attempting to ascertain that enough inertia would remain in the spinning turbines for long enough, allowing the backup diesel-powered system to reach full operational capacity. Due to a series of operator actions and errors, such as disabling of the automatic shutdown mechanisms, by the time the operators moved to shut down the reactor fully, the reactor was in extremely unstable condition. The interaction between very hot fuel and cooling water led to rapid steam production and a catastrophic increase in pressure. This increase in pressure is what caused the explosion that compromised the reactor. As a result of the first explosion, oxygen poured into the now exposed reactor core and the graphite moderator caught fire, causing a second explosion. Burning core fuel fragments as well as hot graphite rained onto the roof of the adjacent reactor unit number 3, as well as sending a plume of highly radioactive fallout into the atmosphere and over a widespread area. 1:23:45 a.m. The emergency button was pressed by the operator. It was now abundantly clear that the Chernobyl nuclear power plant was facing a crisis.
Алло, Припять, 3 и 4 блок, горит крыша в результате аварии взрыва.
Ой, давай. Так уже подтвердили?
Не подтвердили, авария там произошла у них. Это диспетчер Припяти сказала. Пожарная охрана. Алло, Иванков? Да. Значит, вы выезжаете в Припять? Алло? Да, я слышу. На атомную станцию выезжайте. Там 3 и 4 блок, горит крыша. Пожарная охрана. Алло, Полесская? Да. Вы, значит, выезжаете на атомную станцию, там горит крыша третьего, четвертого блока.
At 1:45 a.m, the firefighters arrive. They know nothing about the radiation breach and aren't wearing any protective clothing. Dozens of fires now rage around the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant complex, including one on top of the neighbouring Reactor 3. At 6:35 a.m, all fires have now been extinguished, bar a blaze that still rages in the reactor core. This blaze would continue to burn for a number of days due to its inaccessibility and radioactive nature. During the following days, weeks and months, whilst under strict Soviet pressure to downplay the incident, thousands of men attempt to stem the release of highly toxic radioactive material. Helicopters begin dumping sand, clay, boron, lead and dolomite into the burning core in an attempt to slow down radioactive emissions. As part of this process, the object shelter or sarcophagus was built. This started 24 days after the disaster on May 20th, 1986. Construction lasted for 206 days. Due to its hasty construction, the sarcophagus would only last 20 to 30 years before requiring maintenance work. In September 2010, construction began on the new safe confinement project. Rather than replacing the original object shelter, the new safe confinement structure encloses the sarcophagus within the new archway. The new safe confinement is designed to prevent the release of radioactive contaminants from exiting the shelter, protect the reactor from external influences and weather, facilitate the disassembly and decommissioning of Reactor 4. New safe confinement was designed to confine the remains of Reactor 4 for the next 100 years. New safe confinement cost approximately €1.5 billion to construct. The construction of the arch was complete in April 2016. On November 14, 2016, the skidding of the arch began. 15 days later, the arch had completed its 180-metre journey, entombing the remains of Reactor 4. In 2011, the Ukrainian authorities opened the 30-kilometre exclusion zone to tourists. This step is what allowed our personal story to begin.